Listen, I did film and television studies at university for 3 years. I spent hours reading countless books and articles on subjects spanning from film all the way to television. Not a single one mentioned Hugh Grant once.
I achieved the hardest qualification across any university or college ever, a 2-1 in history. Let me tell you, the only thing that I learned was that we, as a society, have a history of denying and neglecting Hugh Grant's artistic and cultural relevance, not just in this country, but in the entire world.
I met Oscar at a Hugh Grant-themed event I put on at the Students' Union.
It felt as though Diggory and I were the only ones there, and we agreed that there was a Hugh Grant-shaped hole in academia.
We decided to put it right ourselves. We want to show people that he's an icon in acting.
We want to show people he's more than just a bumbling posh guy.
I'm Diggory Weitz.
And I'm Oscar Beardmore Gray. And this is...
Taking Hugh for Granted.
Hello and welcome to Taking Hugh for Granted, the podcast in which two Hugh Grant enthusiasts watch every single film starring Hugh Grant in the attempt to answer the simple question: is this film taking Hugh for granted? Is it good on its own, or does it rely on the bumbling Brit for its acclaim? And this is Taking Hugh for Granted, not Colin Firth Things First. If you're listening to this in the future, you might be thinking what they're talking about. But if you were listening just a week or two ago, it was April Fool's Day, and Oscar and I did a review of Bridget Jones's Baby. And we did a little spin-off podcast, didn't we, Oscar?
We did, Diggory, and it was a little too convincing for some fans, I think. I mean, we seem to have fooled, I would say, 95% of the fan base. And for that, I'm kind of sorry, but also not sorry.
Exactly. We did an episode of Colin Firth Things First. It was almost a glimpse into a sort of, I don't know, like a parallel universe in which instead of loving Hugh Grant, we loved Colin Firth, and we did a whole podcast about him. So go back and check that out. It was very good. But like you say, it was almost too convincing. I think, my dad always said this: a con man, the last person he cons is himself, and let alone the fans. But when we were doing, I say the fans, let alone the listeners. When we were doing the podcast, I was recording it and we were pretending to love Colin Firth and stuff. And I was thinking to myself, bloody hell, I'm really feeling this. There's some genuine. I'd conned myself into actually falling in love with it. I was loving it. So I mean, that's going to sound like absolute blasphemy on this podcast, but it was great fun.
I mean, yeah, Diggory, your crying was it deserved an Oscar. It deserved an Oscar. Yeah.
But it wasn't acting. That's what I'm saying. It was weird. It came from nowhere. I felt it deep within my bones. It was real. It was visceral. Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, some of the people that we definitely fooled was, for example, my own mum. I said, in the morning of April Fool's Day, I sent a photo of Colin Firth Things First, because we went all out here. Diggory we had this plan from it must have been
months ago.
It was last year.
Minimum.
So we went all out on the artwork, obviously the episode, etc. I sent this the artwork to my mum, being like, new podcast launching today, and she's a big Colin Firth fan. I think she's a bigger Colin Firth fan than she is Hugh Grant fan. So obviously she was
a heathen.
Yeah, I know. She was buzzing about it, and then half an hour later, I just got a load of expletives,
a load of abuse.
Yeah. This is a piss take.
Yeah,
I'm very sorry, because I'm sure there was a lot of people who had that same reaction. I know our friend Megan Johnson down in Bristol, another case of nearly a crashed car, apparently.
Yeah, yes,
listening to our pod.
Yeah, exactly. Another crashed car. That's the third one now. She wasn't very happy. But it's interesting. I still think I have friends who don't know that it was a joke, that don't know it was April Fool's. I still think people are thinking, wow, he really likes these bumbling Brits, isn't he? Like, he's doing another one.
I definitely think that. I shared it on Facebook, and I definitely did get that feeling that there were quite a few people probably looking at that and being like, well, I mean, it was a bit weird he started a Hugh Grant podcast, and now he's doing a Colin Firth podcast. What has got into this guy?
Yeah, exactly. When's it going to end? What is interesting as well is that, I think the problem with it, Oscar, and I'm interested to see what you think of this, is I think we pissed off two sets of people here. We pissed off the Hugh Grant fans because they were like, what the hell are you doing? Even as an April Fool's joke, this is too far. And we pissed off the Colin Firth fans because they were like, oh, what the hell, it's a joke. Like, we like Colin Firth. So I actually think that we have left April Fool's Day having just pissed everyone off. It's a net deficit.
It is a net deficit, and we don't want to get on the bad side of either fan base. I know, we do hate Colin, but we do have some respect for the Colin Firth fans out there.
Absolutely. Right, shall we talk about the film today, American Dreamz?
Let's talk about it.
What I want listeners to do is really listen to this synopsis. I'm almost certain, listener, that you haven't seen this film, and if you have, I really do feel for you. If you haven't seen this film, though, listen to what synopsis Simon says. Really listen, and I think you can quickly get this film and get just how shit it is. Right, let's have a listen.
American Dreamz, directed by Paul Weitz and released in 2006. Martin Tweed, played by Hugh Grant, is the host of a talent show called American Dreamz, and whilst he despises each new season, it's a hit with the ratings. Tweed decides it's high time for a new and interesting batch of contestants, and sends out his team to find the weirdest bunch possible. Meanwhile, the President of the United States, played by Dennis Quiad, is becoming more and more depressed and relies on his Chief of Staff, played by Willem Dafoe, to talk him through everything, even into appearing as a judge on the TV show. Perfect news for the terrorists who are planning to infiltrate the talent contest.
Oh dear.
It doesn't get much more sort of mid-2000s post 9/11 than this, does it?
Absolutely not. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking actually with this film. I was like, it's almost as if they collected all the buzzwords of their time and thrown them at the wall and seen what sticks. And what stuck on the wall, right? They've gone, we're not going to go for that. We're going to go for what's slopped down at the bottom of the wall, the rubbish that left, and they'll put that together to make a film. Absolutely bizarre.
Well, what was interesting about this film when I was reading up about it is that the director referred to it as a cultural satire, which is a little bit worrying given the only pieces of culture in this film is a talent contest with a Simon Cowell-esque character and a load of terrorists.
Yeah, it was bizarre though, because I think 2007, and I suppose still today, there is that like that fascination with becoming famous, and in 2007 that was like Britain's Got Talent, Pop Idol, American Idol, X Factor, etc. And I suppose they're playing off that. Also, like you say, 9/11, there's still the history of that. There's a lot of people think that these days, the big films these days are superhero films, and which have existential threats, usually threats to America, and figures like Iron Man, etc., are like America and everything fighting back. This film is those two things married, and in this very, very odd way.
Not another season, I beg you. Don't make me do it. Don't make me do it.
Everyone's ready for you, sir.
Great, terrific. Okay, let's go. Well, welcome back, America. I am so delighted to be back with another exciting season of American Dreamz. We have some amazing dreamers who are going to perform for you tonight. Only one will become America's newest sensation.
Sally can do. Yeah.
You've been selected to perform on the show.
Stop screaming. You're going to have to come out all over again because we didn't get it on camera. Okay.
I think I laughed. I genuinely think I laughed. I was going to say I didn't laugh at all during this film, and there was a point in the film where I hadn't done. And we're talking maybe an hour and 10 minutes into it before I laughed, maybe even later on. And for a comedy, and I know what they were trying to do, like, that is shocking. That is shocking.
Well, you're not gonna please our friend, our Bristol professor friend Megan Johnson, who I know is a huge fan of American Dreamz. I wonder what she sees in this.
Maybe she sees what they're trying to do because this film, I think, is trying to be. So how do we get across the vibe of this film? I think what the film is trying to do is be edgy and be, kind of like, close to the bone. What it reminded me of, right, is two films, Team America, which deals with a lot of these themes. America, fuck yeah, and terrorism, right? But obviously it's made from the people who made South Park, and they are known for being really offensive, and they are also known for like being so over the top and crazy. And also I think with South Park and Team America, the fact that the form is, one of them is a cartoon, the other one is puppets. The form kind of is something that they can hide behind.
Yeah.
So that's quite clever as well. And even to some extent with when they did their musical, the Book of Mormon, they can hide behind that as well a little bit, maybe. So we go across and we look at the other one that did this quite well, I think, was Four Lions. Now, a lot of people might not have seen Four Lions.
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Yeah, it's a film about some terrorists in the UK who plot to blow up, I think, the London Marathon. Now, the terrorists in that film are presented as idiots and fools, and that sometimes is what's thrown against these films about terrorists. They're always seen as idiots, buffoons, etc. And it's really undignified. But that film, I actually think, had a real point. And at the end of that film, it's very funny the whole way through, and it's very close to the bone, etc. But then at the end, all of that falls away, and there's this real human element left, and you've learnt to love these characters in their own weird way, and there's a real message at the end of the film. So those, I think, are the two ways that you can do this. You can go full parody, you can go Team America, or you can go parody, but actually have a message behind it at the end, and give it some real meaning and some real humanity at the end there with Four Lions. This film sits somewhere in the middle, where it does neither of those things, doesn't really go down the full-on parody route, doesn't really go down the full-on human comedy route, and really sits in the middle, and it's shit.
Well, you're listening to Hugh Grant taking Hugh for granted on the radio. Hugh Grant taking Hugh for granted. Oh, the podcast show.
What I found interesting about this film when I researched it was that I was wondering why Hugh Grant was in this film. And then I discovered that it was directed by Paul Weitz. He directed About a Boy, but he also directed American Pie. So it's kind of two kind of polar opposite films. But obviously, he must have loved working with Hugh and thought, I'm going to bring him into this project. And maybe this is a good segue now to talk about Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
Because I think that there are a lot of similarities with Hugh's character here and his character in music and lyrics, particularly in his look, his look and kind of feel. What did you think?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, definitely the look. He's wearing these, like kind of lame shirts. I mean, in music and lyrics, I think the shirts are lame because potentially, although is he supposed to be trendy in music and lyrics?
He's a bit of a washed up, pop star. Yeah. So he's, you kind of imagine him to be like a sort of Phil Collins or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sort of thinking he's wearing shirts because they were the style at the time that he was big, which for that film was in the 80s. In this one, I think he wears the shirts. I think I saw an interview with him as well where he said that the character wears the shirts because they're bad, but he knows they're bad, and wearing bad shirts would then be cool. And I think it's a really good way of putting it. But he wears these bad shirts, undoes a few buttons, and has always some sort of necklace showing, some tight necklace, sometimes with the
which is exactly what he had on the music and lyrics. Is a spitting image.
Exactly the same. And it's funny because he filmed them at the same time, the films, or he had them coming out around the same time.
Maybe he just ran across film sets or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's interesting, I guess, we talked a little bit earlier about X Factor and American Idol and stuff, and you have to draw the comparisons between Simon Cowell and Hugh Grant in these two roles. Simon Cowell loves himself, egotistical. Some would say Hugh Grant may have some of those tendencies, but at least his character is trying to portray that. And what I thought was quite funny about his role was that most talent shows have a plethora of judges, probably 4 or something. But in Hugh Grant's TV show American Dreamz, he is the only judge.
It's just him.
And he's the only presenter.
Exactly. Yeah. It's until of course the president of the United States comes and helps him judge it.
You're looking very good, sir. Very good.
Welcome, America. Welcome, world. Welcome, everyone else. Boo! We've been through so much together. Laughed, we've cried, we've formed attachments. And now, we're down to just 2. And to help me, help you, judge tonight, we're welcoming a very special guest. The President of this great country. President Joseph Staten!
I liked his character in this in some ways, actually. At the beginning, I don't know if you felt this too. Did he have a weird accent for you, or was that just me?
He did have a weird accent.
What was that?
It's actually odd that you say that because you're so right. He loses it about halfway through the film. It's similar to what's the other film where he kind of loses the accent halfway through? Is it?
Oh God,
I can't remember off the top of my head.
That.
But anyway, yeah, he's a bit of a North London geezer at the beginning of the film. He's a bit of a sort of washed up kind of. I mean, similar, I guess, maybe to the sort of cool vibe in About a Boy. And then about half an hour in, he sort of loses it after he's been driving around in a Ferrari with one of the characters,
with the leading lady.
Yeah.
It makes no sense because in my head I'm like, I'm pretty sure that films aren't filmed in chronological order. It will make more sense if they film some scenes at this point and some scenes at this point. They'll film all the stuff in the studio where all the American Dreamz is filmed on the same day, and they'll just change clothes, etc., etc. So it doesn't make sense as to why it does fit chronologically that his accent just sort of falls, like this weird accent he inflects, like falls off halfway through the film. It's really, really bizarre. I saw a review of this film, or I read a couple where people said that they liked his performance, and do you know what? There are actually aspects of Hugh's performance to enjoy in this. I do think maybe it's a bit hammed up, but this film, I think they were probably told to ham it up. Like, this is a film where you're meant to go over the top and be silly. But at the beginning of this film, because he puts on the voice and then loses it, it's almost as if he was like, oh, I'll go for this, and then actually I'll sack it off. And it kind of made it for, like, the fact that we're talking about it now feels that it's very noticeable, and it means that the performance is inconsistent and not great, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, but he, again, though, I will play devil's advocate here and say that actually, again, he's casted in a sort of ideal role for him, which is a sort of egotistical and not very nice person, a bit like in Bridget Jones, where he's all kind of smiles and he's like a bit sleazy. He helps the leading lady become the star she wants to be, and then just as she's about to do her thing, he's like, oh, just have a quick shag, and that's kind of what you imagine Simon Cowell. I don't know what Simon Cowell is actually like, but those kind of people in showbiz, he kind of represents that sort of mid-2000s showbiz, what's wrong with it kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think you're right, Oscar.
I thought the ending was a good laugh, to be fair. It is, the whole subplot of this whole movie is like, you've got the one storyline about this terrorist who decides to try and kill the president, and then you've kind of got the other story about the talent show, and these two things merge at the end in classic fashion, where the terrorist somehow gets to the final of the competition, and he's in a 3-way battle with a Hasidic Jew and an Ohio blonde who looks very much like Kelly Clarkson from American Idol. So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, so you have this battle between the blonde lady and the terrorist, and they're both singing. And the idea is that the terrorist is going to wear a a bomb suit, and when the president walks onto the stage, he's going to blow him up. While this is happening, the boyfriend of the blonde lady is an Iraq 2-day veteran after he gets shot on his first day. The girlfriend is not really in love with him, but he is going to propose to her on stage as part of the sob story. Anyway, he sees Hugh getting it on with his lady.
How can I do what to you?
How could you sleep with Mr. Tweed?
Whoa! Boo!
I'm serious.
Seriously, William, I think it's common knowledge I would never, ever, ever sleep with a contestant on American Dreamz.
I saw you through the keyhole. You nailed her. I guess you two think I'm stupid. I guess you all think I'm stupid. Well, I'll show you how stupid I am. I'm gonna blow myself up with this bomb I found.
William, don't joke around about something like that.
Oh, I'm not joking.
And he's so depressed that he goes onto the stage and he sort of reveals he's got the bomb suit on just as the president's there.
So when the boyfriend comes out, when the boyfriend has found the jacket in the toilet bin, and you realize what he's going to do because he's so upset. As an audience, I have to say that moment I did laugh. I was like, "This is nuts!" And so when he goes on stage and he confronts her and Hugh, and he's wearing the jacket, that it was funny. That moment where he does blow himself up is really, really dark.
It is quite dark.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's dark. But that's what I think the film should have been hitting more each time. In a way, I feel like that's actually what the note the film should have been striking a bit more, because these are actually some dark themes that they're dealing with here, and you could have really messed with the light and the dark. However, throughout the film, it's constantly portraying all of what's going on as kind of light humor, and it isn't, and so it constantly misses the mark.
I think what was meant to be funny was the fact that you got the terrorist and you got the American soldier, and they're meant to be those sort of two things going at each other, and they switch roles.
If you're going to try and tackle these things and try and be like, and don't worry, it's funny, you have to make sure it is actually funny and it actually works. Because when it doesn't, it looks embarrassing and it looks offensive. And that's what
some of it looked like.
This film, exactly, a lot of it looked like. I mean, because I think, but like you say, and if we're being kind, we'll just say, look, it was going to be shit. It's a weird premise. You guys fucked up. And it did. It fucked up at the box office as well. But if you look at it the other way, you're like, God, this is now becoming a stain on everyone who was in it. And there is an element to that. It was uncomfortable viewing at times.
Taking he for granted. Taking he for granted. Taking he for granted. What did you think, lads? Were they taking he for granted?
Oscar, American Dreamz, what did you think? Are we taking you for granted or not?
This film had the potential to be a comedy classic. Think Superbad or 21 Jump Street or She's the Man, for example. And I think I would have really liked to see what someone like Seth Rogen or James Franco would have done with the script. Instead, what we got was a major flop and a major disappointment, and there's a reason why it really flopped in the box office too.
Yeah, it was crap. I think the budget was an estimated $17 million, and I think they recouped $16 million worldwide. Just shy of 17. That is shocking. And to be honest, it's completely deserved. I mean, is this film taking you for granted? Absolutely. I agree with you. I would love to have got behind this film. When I heard the premise, I was like, this sounds batshit. But the problem was, and I would have, and if it worked, I would have loved it. The problem was, I don't even know how to explain the issue. It's sort of like it had this sheen over it where it almost it was presenting as a film that it wasn't. It should have tried to be something else. It was, like I say, it was filmed like an American Pie, but American Pie isn't dealing with some of these issues. They should have taken it in some ways a bit more seriously, or tried to give it a bit more of a style or something. regardless of that, it didn't work. Hugh, as I said, was serviceable but inconsistent. And for that reason, it might be the worst Hugh Grant film I've ever seen. I think it might be.
You know what?
Are there any more that...
You know what? I'm gonna back you up there, Diggs. I mean, when I spoke to my girlfriend earlier this morning about she was like, how was the film? I said, I think it's the worst Hugh Grant film there has ever been and might ever be.
There you go. Yeah, that's. Oh God! So why did we even give such long answers to whether it was taking it for granted or not? It really, and I thought that just before the end, I thought, "Fuck me, this is the worst Hugh Grant film I've ever seen," and we've seen a lot by this point. What else is up there, or sorry, down there in his worst few? Because I actually can't think of any that stand out that they're so bad that I thought I'm going to say this is the worst one.
I'm trying to think. This is a hard one.
Bitter Moon.
Bitter Moon was really bad.
That's it. Bitter Moon was
Bitter Moon
shite.
had some edge to it. As you
and we know we like edge. We know we like a bit of edge. Worst Hugh Grant film I've ever seen, and Bitter Moon is bad.
It's only up from here, Diggs. Only up from here.
It's only up from here. I actually do think we've reached the bottom, and I don't. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't think we're going to get this low again. I never felt so sure about something in my entire life. Fantastic. Well, we will return in a couple of weeks for what will undoubtedly be a better Hugh Grant film.
And hopefully a better episode. We don't want to sit here bashing Hugh. I've said that before, but sometimes you have to. And this is one of those.
Exactly. Look, it wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be right. As I've said before as well, sometimes the biggest fans are also the biggest critics. We know how good Hugh can be. We know how good his films can be. And that's why we're going to critique this so harshly and say it is the worst Hugh Grant film we've ever seen. It was a bag of shite. Fantastic. Excellent. Well, follow us on all the socials. We're at Taking Hugh on Twitter, at Taking Hugh for Granted on Instagram and Facebook. TakingYouForGranted@gmail.com. If you want to email us and tell us, no, it's great because of X, Y, and Z, and I will respond with probably about 3 times what you've written, and I angrily, in all caps, and then you come back to me with your counterpoints, and we'll argue. That's what we do on the internet. I'm going to argue with you because this film is shite. Oscar, anything going on in your life to tell people about?
Not really,
in the next
mate.
couple of weeks?
I mean, no. I mean,
I'm just going to go home. I'm just going to sit in my room and think. Do you know what I mean? In the dark.
Yeah.
Just think about.
Well, we've hit the low of the low, so yeah, it's
yeah, exactly.
I have to mourn this film. Burn it.
Burn it. Absolutely burn it. Right. It's goodbye from me, Diggory Way.
Goodbye from me, Oscar.
Right. Bye, guys.
See.
Taking Hugh for Granted is produced, edited and presented by Diggory Waite and Oscar Beardmore Gray. The producers of Taking Hugh for Granted would like to state that this podcast is in no way associated with the actor Hugh John Mungo Grant, nor does it endorse his views or represent him in any way. Instead, by creating this podcast, Oscar and Diggory hope to celebrate Hugh's illustrious career, reliving his old classics and shedding light on some of his hidden gems. Hugh, if you're listening, we hope you approve.